Whoa, looking at my drip, looking at your drip. Whoa, mommy, look at.
Good evening, guys, and welcome back. I'm not going to say the usual thing that Dave usually says or what I usually say. I just really haven't got the energy. Anyway, I was in two minds whether to do this video. I just couldn't decide whether I would be up to it. So I'm going to try and do this without getting really emotional. I'm trying to keep myself together just because I think I've cried enough, and the more I cry, the less energy I've got. So I'm really trying to stay focused and just think positive and look to the future. So anyway, there's a lot of people that might come on here that are on here for the first time, are watching us for the first time. Unfortunately, 2 days ago we lost our baby. So I'm just going to give you a little rundown of what has been happening. So basically on Tuesday night I'd come to bed as normal. I think went to bed around 11. It might have been about 12. I'm not too sure on times because, to be honest, the last 2 days have just been like a blur, and kind of I don't even know what day I'm on, to be honest. I know it's Saturday now, but this morning I woke up and literally didn't even know what day it was. I even forgot it was Portia's birthday because my head has been that done in. Luckily enough we had the cards and everything anyway, and the presents, but I just, like, you know, when you wake up and you're in one of them dazes where you just think, what day is it? But anyway, we come to bed Tuesday night as normal. And I was sorting some washing out in the washroom, and I was stood there and I kept thinking, I feel damp, like in my underwear. So I just being me, I just thought, oh, as you know, when you're pregnant, you know, you're quite known to losing like a discharge. So I just thought, oh, maybe it's just that. So I carried on doing the washing. Didn't think anything of it really quickly. I was going to go in the bedroom and change anyway, because I always do. So anyway, we come back into the bedroom, and then I heard like this little pop, and I was looking around, you know, like you would do. You just look around and think, oh my god, what was that noise? And I don't know what it was. I just kind of thought, I said to Dave, I think my waters have just broke. And he went, your waters, don't be silly, you're only 9 weeks pregnant. And I didn't even think like that you could lose any waters at being that far pregnant. So anyway, I looked in my underwear, and because the lighting in this room, it kind of changes everything to colour. So if I'm wearing something like this, when I come in it looks red, not yellow. So when I looked in my underwear, the wet looked red. So obviously my heart sunk, and I was like almost just in tears, because that's what I thought. And I said, put the light on because I need to check, because I don't know if the lighting's making it look different. So anyway, when we put the light on, it wasn't blood. It wasn't blood. It was just like water, and it was actually dripping through my underwear. That's how I knew it was water. And that's when I said to Dave, that's my waters. My waters must have broke. And he was just like, don't be silly, don't be silly. I don't think that would happen. We'll just have to see how you get on tomorrow. It could be anything. It could just be a really watery discharge. It could be anything. So I went to bed not thinking anything of it. Obviously still worried, because to me personally, it's not something that I've experienced before. And as a lot of you have known, but I said from the beginning, this pregnancy has not felt normal. No cravings, no symptoms, no nothing. Even though we went and had a scan to say there was a baby there, and we went for the scan. We were six weeks and 5 days when we went for the scan. I still just didn't feel like that was a live pregnancy. Just something was just telling me that there was just not something right with it. So anyway, we didn't think nothing of it. And then when we got up the next morning, I didn't have no pain or anything. So obviously there's no like cause for concern, because unless you've got really heavy bleeding or anything, then they say like some blood and brown discharge can be quite normal, because you can have like an embedding bleed, or sometimes you can have a little bit of blood around the baby and you can lose that. So it was in the afternoon, I think it was around 12 o'clock, and I'd gone to the toilet, and when I was wiping it was coming out just a little bit red. Not red, it was pink. It was like a pink and a brown discharge. So obviously at that point I wasn't too worried. Obviously I was, because obviously it's a sign of something starting. So anyway, I rang the midwife and the doctors and I'd asked them for some advice, and they just said if it's only pink and brown I wouldn't be too worried about it, because it's quite normal to have like an embedding bleed and lose it a little bit later on, or sometimes it can be a little bit of blood left from a period that you haven't lost, because obviously your body was meant to have a period, and sometimes that builds up and you can lose it. So I just left it at that. I just kind of thought, well, they're, you know, professionals, they know what they're talking about, and it was just a little bit of reassurance that they were saying that it could possibly be an embedding bleed. And that continued all the way through Wednesday. Probably about 4 o'clock it started getting a tiny little bit darker. Well, I wouldn't say darker, I'd just say a little bit more in quantity of losing it, rather than just when I was wiping. It started to become, I put a pad on and it started to become a little bit more darker brown. Like when you're gonna start a period, a lot of people's periods start brown and build up after a couple of days into a proper period, and then go back to like a discoloured blood. So it started like that, but it was only drips. So obviously I rang the hospital again and said, look, to me it looks like it's getting a little bit worse. It's still brown, nothing like major, no heavy bleeding or anything like that. So I just thought, do you know what, I'm just gonna not worry about it, because obviously I've spoke to the hospital and they said if you become even more concerned about it, then obviously we'd advise you to come down and get checked. But they said unless you're heavily bleeding, then we would probably just, again, say it's like an embedding bleed, or probably a bit of loss of blood from an old period. So we didn't do anything on the Wednesday night. We were like umming and ahhing whether to go to the hospital and have it checked. But I know how busy the hospitals are, and even though it's my baby, I kind of felt like I wasn't like bleeding, so it wasn't like even though I would normally go and get it checked out, I just thought because I'm not heavily bleeding, then there's no point me going and sitting there for them to say, yeah, it's probably just an embedding bleed, and then I have to come back home again. And I've sat there for all that time, even though it's not the time that's would have bothered me, because obviously, you know, you never put a time on a pregnancy. If there's bleeding or anything, you go and get it checked straight away. And then when it got to Thursday morning, Wednesday night, I was fine, no pain again. So it was just because I wasn't having any pain. That was kind of why I wasn't worrying. And then on Wednesday morning, I had the same feeling. In fact, just going back quickly, the water that I actually lost, I was dripping that all through that Tuesday night until the next day. So that kind of made me believe that that was waters that was coming away from the baby. So anyway, on the Wednesday morning, I'd gone upstairs to the top. In fact, I was stood downstairs, and I don't know why, but I said to Dave, I think I'm bleeding. So he said, right, go upstairs and check, and then, you know, we'll see. So I'd gone upstairs, and I just remember the dreading of looking, because I kind of already knew. I knew. I just, you know, when you just have that really sick feeling that something's not right. I'd gone upstairs, and when I pulled my underwear down, and it was all brown in my knickers. So it was like a really dark brown now. It was like a drill. It was like blood but brown, and it weren't just a bit. It was like my whole of my underwear was like that. So obviously I'd gone downstairs. In fact, I'd had a wee, and the wee came out red. Not a deep red, but I'd say like a pink to red kind of colour. So I knew then that that was the start of something bad that was going to happen. So anyway, I'd gone downstairs and just broke down, literally just broke down. And I remember seeing Mason stood at the top of the stairs looking at me as if to say, I don't know what to say, Mum. I really don't know what to do. Like, I don't know whether he wanted to come down and put his arms around me, or whether he was just in shock because he must have known. But it's the first time I've ever seen Mason stand so still and put his head down and just be speechless, just like not have anything to say. And remember the girls being in the bedroom, so don't quite think Portia had heard me get upset. And then obviously she'd come down and she said, oh, Oscar had said Mum was crying, so she said, what's she crying for? So I said I need to go to the hospital and be checked, because we're losing some, what I think is blood. And then obviously David took the kids to school, couldn't go anywhere till the kids had gone to school. And then when he came back, sorry, am I still on Wednesday now, or am I on Thursday? Oh yeah, so Wednesday night we went to bed. This was Thursday morning, now we're on. This is what I mean, I don't even know what day it's on. So Thursday morning, this was. I got to the hospital and I just broke down. I just walked in and just broke down. Couldn't even talk to the doctors, couldn't talk to the nurses. They were literally like, just trying to talk to me, and I couldn't get the words out. I just couldn't get the words out of what I wanted to say. Anyway, so the nurse came in, did a load of checks. At this point, the bleeding had slowed down again, and just gone like a pink and a brown. So I got there for around, I think it was about 10 o'clock when I arrived at the hospital, and it, like I said, it had slowed down then. So I was kind of like, oh, I wonder if it is just like an embedding bleed. So I did mention it to him and said, look, it was really heavier this morning and then now it's gone pretty light. And so they said, right, well, we're going to do some checks anyway. And then it was about, I think it was about 1 o'clock. In fact, I don't know. I think it was, it might have been about 12 o'clock. I remember just standing there. And obviously I only had a small pad on at this point. And I just remember this blood, just, I could feel it just draining from my body. I could feel it. And I just stood there and it just went, and it literally went down my pants. Luckily enough, he had black pants on. But I felt it just pour out. It drenched the tampon, the towel that he had on. It was all down my pants. He ended up having to give me a nightgown to put on. I think I went through about 2 of them. And it was just like that. It was just continuous then. Just for like, well, it was like that then for the rest of the night basically. But the nurse came in. She had to put like a scope inside me to take a look at my cervix to see what was going on. And obviously because of the amount of blood I was losing, it was really hard because she had to try and clean it with like a tissue to try and be able to see to the top of the cervix, which was really uncomfortable as well, because I remember just sitting there and I was just crying my eyes out. And she was like, I just need you to relax. I know it's really, really painful. Like, not painful, like, I mean like emotionally. It was just heartbreaking because I knew then that the baby was gone. I remember just cleaning and pulling all this like stuff out and saying I'm gonna have to check it to see if it's pregnancy tissue. Anyway, she checked that and that wasn't, it was just clots that. So she said, because of the amount of bleeding, I can't let you go home because we might need to operate. And it was just so horrible because I was sat there on my own and I just didn't know what to do because I knew Dave couldn't come, and I'm scared to death of anything like that. And the only time I feel safe is when I know Dave is with me. And they didn't even offer for Dave to come, knowing that I was going to be going through that on my own. I just think it's so out of order. So bad. It's so wrong. Anyway, she carried on checking. And the blood was just not stopping. She said, if the bleeding carries on like this, we're going to have to take you into theatre and do something about it. Because we just can't let you carry on bleeding like that, otherwise you're going to bleed to death. So anyway, she'd looked at all the tissues. She said, your cervix looks fine to me. It just looks normal. She couldn't see anything untoward. She said my cervix still looked pretty closed, like not open or anything. So I was just praying that it was just a heavy bleed from around the baby. So they got me an emergency scan, and I think, I can't remember. I remember I rang a couple of people and spoke to them. I rang my mate Kate, I rang Sarah from the Ingham family, spoke to her, I rang a couple of other people, I can't remember, but my phone had actually broke. Of all the days, I literally had to force my phone. So as soon as somebody like messaged, I could contact them if I pressed it hard, and I had to ring them through WhatsApp. And I just got there and I thought, of all the days my phone has to break, I had to use the nurse's phone to ring Dave to tell her that everything that I'd done. The nurse, she was just lovely. She was just amazing. So she let me use the phone to ring Dave for me to tell him what was going on. Obviously at this point we didn't know anything about the pregnancy, whether it was still there or not, until we had a scan. And then I think we had the scan around 1:30 or something, but at this point I was literally just pouring with blood, and I'd already lost so many clots before this. I had to collect all my urine in this pot, like them cardboard things you have to sit on and wee in. Every time you had a wee, you had to go on to one of them. The only time I didn't do it was when I was having my scan. She asked me, because she did a stomach scan, and then she said she couldn't see the pregnancy on the scan, so she needed to do an internal scan. But obviously I told her that we think that the waters have broke, so there wouldn't have been any waters there for him to be able to see the pregnancy. So the baby would have probably been soaked into its sac, and more than likely been in between all of the tissue and the blood that they could see on the scan. So obviously they knew there was pregnancy there, and something was being lost because of the amount of blood that they could see on the scan. So then she said, I can't really see anything like this. I don't think your bladder's full enough. But obviously I can see that your bladder has got something in it, so I need you to empty that so we can do an internal scan. So when I went to the toilet, I actually lost a clot then, which to me felt like that was the pregnancy clot, because all the others that I'd lost were kind of like, how can I put it? It was more soft. It was more soft. When it came out, it kind of more slid out. It's really complicated to talk, and especially if men are watching this, because it's just like, even though like it's a bad thing and you know it's like an experience that I want to share with everybody, it's just really hard to explain it, because unless you're there and feeling it, obviously somebody that's been in this situation that I'm in will understand what I mean. But at this point still had no pain. I had a few crampings, but nothing major to make me think that it was a really bad miscarriage. So Anyway, I'd gone and emptied my bladder, and I said to her, look, I've just lost the clot now. I'm not too sure whether that was the pregnancy, because it felt different to all of the other clots that I'd lost. So obviously they couldn't check that one to see if it was the pregnancy, which is heartbreaking, because I keep thinking, as disgusting as it sounds, I wish I would just put my hand in the toilet and pulled the clot out and checked it myself. Obviously I could have washed my hands, scrubbed them and stuff like that, but something just keeps telling me why didn't I do it, and it's just really annoying me. And I just kept thinking, I don't want to flush a chain, I don't want to flush a chain. And I just stood there like frozen for 10 minutes, and the woman came knocking on the door, and I just said to her, look, I've just lost a clot down the toilet, and I don't know whether that's the baby, and I really don't want to flush a chain, because I don't want to get rid of a baby. But I knew that I had to. So I went in and she did the internal scan. And she said because of the amount of blood and the amount of clots that are in the way, I can't see. I physically can't see anything. She said the only way we could do it is if we clean you out again. But she said I don't know how long it'd take for the blood to be building up, because it's coming out that fast. So it was just, but she just said that I can't see physical pregnancy. That's what I've got to put down, that I can't see a pregnancy. And there's no evidence of a pregnancy because I can't see it. She said the only evidence that's there is the blood and obviously the clots, because with any normal period you wouldn't lose all of them clots. So obviously they knew I was pregnant because my pregnancy hormones were through the roof at first, and then obviously they redid them. I think it was like about 4 hours after, just to check them to see how much it dropped. I think when they first did it they were like 14,000 and something, and then when they did them again later on they dropped to 3,700. That's quite a big drop. That just goes to show you how much blood I was losing, because she said that for him to drop that quick, that's, you know, that's almost like you've lost a whole week's worth of blood in the matter of a couple of hours. So they'd already said they'd ordered the blood because they were going to do a blood transfusion, emergency blood transfusion, because you won't tell now because I've got a bit of foundation on, but I literally look dead. I mean, look at my hand. My hand look like I'm a ghost. And obviously I had my catheter, I think it's called a catheter, in here for if I had to go for surgery, and also for my drip to get fluids into me. And I think they put like an antibiotic in, I can't remember. But they just squirted that in, they didn't put that through her. That was just in case there was any infection lingering like around the pregnancy. That's just to protect it all, and if there's any, it's meant to, I don't even know what the word is, prevent any infection around that area. So I can't even remember what happened then. They'd done my bloods anyway, and the blood to come back. When I'd gone back, obviously I had to wait for the doctor, and then the doctor that came round then was saying, like, obviously we can't prove there was pregnancy there on the scan, so we can't put on your notes that you were pregnant. I said I've had a scan, I paid for a private scan, and it said it was 6 weeks and 5 days and there was a baby with a heartbeat. So then obviously when they'd seen the scan with my name on, my date of birth on, then they knew. But then later on came back and realised that I was already under North Manchester with antenatal things. Obviously the hospital that was in was Tameside, so I wasn't under their hospital, and he hadn't had any appointments with their community midwife, so there wouldn't have been anything on their system. So I had to tell him that all my appointments were with North Manchester, and any notes that they needed would have to get North Manchester to send it over to him. Now, as you know, I had bloods done And the condition that I carry, which is anti-E, can be quite serious, which to me worried me, because when she rang me, I mean, I think it was 7, I don't even know how far it was, I think it was like 7.5 weeks when I had my first bloods done. And I've never ever had anti-E that early in a pregnancy. It's always started around like 19 to 20 weeks. And for her to ring me back the week after tells me that she was concerned about something, because, excuse me, because she wanted to get them bloods back redone as quick as she could, which I've still not heard anything back about the bloods. I have tried getting hold of them today, but obviously it's Saturday, so there's not very many clinics open on a Saturday, so you have to ring the early pregnancy and then they can try and chase it up. But even trying to get hold of them is crazy, because there must just be so much going on, and there's only so many nurses in, because there's loads off with COVID, or they're off because they've had babies, and they're just like, they're trying to do the best. And the warder was on, seriously, the nurses were just amazing, and I don't like Tameside Hospital. My opinions on it, they're not very good. I mean, to be fair, when I actually went to my ward, the nurses on there wasn't so great. But anyway, so carrying on from that, obviously I'd spoke to the doctor and shown her the scan and stuff like that. So obviously they do a change through the night, so you end up seeing a different doctor the morning after. So this was Thursday night now. I'd still not had any pain. Well, in fact, my sister came, she dropped me off some stuff, and like my phone charger and stuff, so I could get hold of Dave. Well, I didn't, I had to change my phone. He ended up having to use Alfie's phone, because the touch screen on mine just would not work. Well, it would work if I like tried killing the screen, but it wouldn't, just wouldn't swipe. It was just a nightmare. I just felt so alone. It was just a horrible day. And it was even more emotionally and mentally draining, because I was there on my own. You can imagine sitting around doctors, nurses, taking bloods, looking inside you, pulling things out. It was just like, and I've got to sit here and do all this on my own. I didn't have no one to comfort me, or, you know, put their arms around me and stuff like that. So I felt like at that point, I just couldn't, not that I couldn't get upset, but that I had, basically I didn't want to feel embarrassed, like crying in front of everybody. Even though, like, when I got to the doctors and was speaking to the nurses and stuff, I just broke down. The other thing that annoys me so much is, in that whole day, they never once asked me if I wanted any counselling. They didn't ask me if I wanted to speak to anybody, knowing I was there on my own. They didn't ask me if it was mentally or emotionally draining me, or they just didn't offer anything. I think that is one of the things I'm so annoyed about, and just thinking about it really frustrates me and annoys me. Anyway, Thursday night was just a bad night. Obviously they said if the bleeding slowed down, they would possibly think about me going home, but it got to about 11 o'clock and I just felt like I was gonna die. I literally felt like I was gonna faint. So they put me on the bed, they kept checking me temperature, my heart rate and everything. My heart rate kept dropping, my blood pressure was going up, my temperature was going down. It was just all crazy. I just felt so faint, but which is quite normal because of the amount of blood I just lost. Seriously, if I could have put all of the blood that I'd lost in them 4 hours, in fact it was probably longer than that, I'd say about 6 hours, I swear to God there would have been a mop bucket or two, and that's a lot of blood. That's what they were most concerned about, which, to be fair, I wish they would have just turned around and said, look, we're going to take you to theatre and just do a D&C because it'll get rid of it quicker. Instead they left me there, and I started to feel seriously like I was just going to die, and I just thought, I'm going to die and I'm going to be here on my own. I've lost a baby and I'm going to die. That's all I could think. But that night was just a bad night. I just remember sitting there and crying myself to sleep. I just cried and cried and cried. I couldn't sleep. I think I fell asleep around 3 o'clock in the morning for about an hour or 2. And the only reason I woke up at that point was because another lady was brought in. And then obviously I woke up again and I just started thinking again. So then I was crying again. But I think like the last couple of days I've cried and cried and cried that much. I keep breaking down every now and again. I think today's been a better day. Emotionally. I say that, but you're gonna cry. I know like everyone says if you need to cry, then cry. But seriously, I've been so worn out with crying and tired. And obviously it's Portia's birthday today. So I'm trying to keep myself to a level where I don't look like I've been crying all the time, because obviously it's her day and I don't want to spoil it for her. I just so wish we could break. It just seems like it's one thing after another all the time. It's just constantly something bad always happening to us all the time. If it's not someone dying, there's just always something. If you've been watching us, you'll know that it's just constantly bad luck for us all the time. It feels like nothing ever goes right. And I've just got sick and tired of it. It's like if I want to cry, I've got to come downstairs. I don't have to. I have broke down in front of the kids a couple of times today. But it's because I look at the scan on my phone and I think, how can that baby have been there 3 days ago and then it's just gone? Life is just so cruel, seriously. I just keep thinking, am I ever going to get through this? Am I going to get past it? Am I going to be able to cope again? Obviously not with my kids. I can cope with my kids, but I just don't know. Like the kids asked me today, will you try for another baby, mum? And it's just, I'm more gutted because I so wanted to share pregnancy. Me and my sister have been through so much shit, so much bad in life. And even when we get to do one thing, it's taken away from us. And it just does me head in. Sorry, I'm just checking it's still in focus. Just so badly. I'm so disappointed. Not in anybody else. Just, I feel like I just fail at everything. Every single thing I try and do. And I know it's not my fault. And I know it's nobody else's fault, because sometimes that's just the way life is, innit? Anyway, as I was saying about the blood test, so the condition that I have is anti-E, and if you actually look up anti-E, it can actually give the baby a condition of anemia, which can be quite I don't even know the word. I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't even know. It can be dangerous. It can be dangerous to the baby, depending on what level it's at. See, usually most of my pregnancies, it's not got to a really high level, so it's always been quite safe and manageable. I'm obviously taking it that the Auntie has contributed to it, but I also think that when I had the scan at 6 weeks and 5 days, the woman that was doing that scan actually said there was a bleed around the baby, so she should have automatically have done a report that should have gone to my midwife or doctor or somebody to tell them there was a bleed there, so they could have looked at it and reviewed it and made sure that it was a normal bleed, because they probably would have been able to do something then earlier, because they would have known about it and the hospital would have known that there was a pregnancy there, instead of me waiting for a scan on the 16th of December. So anyway, Friday morning, obviously Friday morning I woke up and I'd had no sleep, so I felt like shit anyway. But when I woke up, the bleeding had eased like loads compared to the day before. Like you would never have thought 6 hours before that I was bleeding as heavy as I was. The colour just completely drained out of me. I was just, I can't even compare it to anything. Snow, literally that's how white it was. It looked like snow. The skin just went white, and they were just really concerned about that as well. So anyway, Thursday morning, Friday morning came round, and obviously you have to wait for a new doctor then. So bearing in mind I'd already shown a doctor the day before the scan picture, and obviously it had been determined that I was pregnant because there was a scan there with my name on, my date of birth and the date the scan was done, and he had quite a few pictures that had shown her, because I think they sent like 7 pictures through. I know I did say I was going to put them up on the community section, but I'll send them to Dave and get him to put them in at the end of this picture. Obviously they're not all of the baby, but it's most of it was the outside of everything and showing like blood around the baby and where and stuff. I'll try and remember to send them to Dave so you can take a look at them. So obviously they do a changeover again in the morning, so another new doctor comes on. Obviously the doctor that come on the Thursday night, I didn't see that doctor because I didn't need to see a doctor until the morning after. So there'd been 2 doctors after the doctor I already personally had on the Thursday. And then just going back a little bit, I remember ringing the kids on Thursday night. Portia was just heartbroken. She literally couldn't talk to me for crying. Oscar and Alfie were just curled up in a ball crying. Aurora didn't really know what was going on. Well, Aurora didn't know what was going on, and Penelope doesn't really understand what a miscarriage is, or, you know, trying to explain to her that, you know, unfortunately the baby's gone to heaven. So she understands that the baby's gone to heaven, but she doesn't understand why the baby's gone to heaven. So trying to explain to Penelope why a baby's gone to heaven is really difficult. You know, she's only 6, so she does understand some of the stuff, but it's not something that you talk about every single day, is it? So it's not something that you'd expect a child to understand. So Friday came, the doctor came, and again she came round and said, we can't determine that this is a pregnancy because we couldn't confirm it on the scan, and obviously we couldn't, she wasn't saying there wasn't a pregnancy there, obviously because the waters had broke, so the baby could have been in between all of the clots and the blood and stuff, and which would have been harder for him to tell, because usually the sac would be around the baby, so it kind of leaves like a gap of waters even though the baby is deceased. But obviously because that was gone, they wasn't able to see like any space around, so, which she did say that anyway. It was just heartbreaking when she said to me, when she looked at that scan, I can't see the baby. It was just, that's probably like the worst thing you ever want to hear. So anyway, this doctor was saying blah 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 about the scan, and said, listen, I said, I told the doctor the other day, and I've shown her the scan. I said I sent her the picture to her phone so she could print it off and put it into my notes. I said I've also been to North Manchester for my blood, where they did all of me levels of pregnancy, checked all my history of bloods and stuff like that, checked my hormones and whatever else they needed to do, and checked the anti-E. So obviously it already come up, because they already, when they do your bloods, they test for pregnancy anyway. So that had come up in the thing that I was pregnant. So obviously I'd explained this to her, and she's like, this hasn't even been wrote down in your notes. So this was a nurse had told, and a doctor, and that still wasn't in my notes. Which is just mind-boggling, because, you know, these are health professionals that are not even doing the job properly. So anyway, I'd shown the doctor, and then she was just like so apologetic. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry this has happened. Obviously we can determine now that it was definitely a miscarriage, because you've got the scan there to prove that there was a pregnancy there. So anyway, they were dead apologetic, and you know, the doctor that came out that morning, she was lovely, I must admit. I think there was a doctor, then a pregnancy nurse, and then a new training doctor, and he was dead nice as well. In fact, they were all really nice, really like sympathetic. And then when they seen the scan, they were just like, they actually looked embarrassed that they were stood there, and one of their professional colleagues had not put this into my notes. So obviously she took the scan, printed it off, put it in with my notes and everything, and then in fact I'm lying, it was a doctor, a midwife and a surgeon. It was actually the surgeon that came out to speak to me, which is a doctor as well. She's a doctor, but she's a surgeon. She's like a high professional one. So she said, we're really thinking about taking you down to theatre to just take a really good look and make sure everything's passed. But we're just, obviously she asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, listen, I'm not having anything done without having my partner here. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, because I'm scared to death. If I got put to sleep and I didn't wake up again, I would never live with myself. But obviously I told her that the bleeding had slowed down, because that's what they were mostly concerned about, the bleeding. So she asked about the bleeding and stuff. She checked it, checked my pad and stuff like that, and she said, I'm quite happy with the blood loss at the minute. So there probably is a possibility that you pass a pregnancy now, and that's why it's slowed down. But they couldn't actually confirm that I'd lost pregnancy, because they checked every clot apart from that one in the toilet that I told you about. So we don't know whether that was a pregnancy clot. But the one that I lost, the very last one I lost, like that was really big, was around 11:30. In fact, this is what I mean, I forget stuff and then I remember, so I do apologise, but I will just go back. On the Thursday night I lost a clot around 11:30. So the doctor I had was still on at that point, so she come out and had a look at it, and said that no, that's just tissue, that's not pregnancy tissue, that's just clottage from around the pregnancy. So she said the only one thing we can think of is the clot that we didn't manage to catch was the pregnancy, or you haven't passed the pregnancy yet. Now, a lot of you will know, when I was having Aurora, I struggled so bad to labour on my own. Contractions, my uterus just would not contract. It did contract at first when my waters first broke, but not to a point when you've had 1 or 2 babies, because obviously I've had quite a few kids, so the uterus isn't as strong. And that's probably just lack of exercise as well, to be fair, because I think if I did do a lot more working out and exercising around that area, then it would help so much more with contractions. through losing all that blood and everything, I got, on the Thursday night I had some pain, but not like, I wasn't cramping over. Like, I've had a miscarriage before, and I think this time it's been so much different because last time I never had a scan, so I didn't know there was a baby there. Even though it hurts, because obviously you know you're pregnant, you've had a positive pregnancy test, but that's always been like a couple of weeks after finding out, where this time we got used to it and kind of started already planning. I know they say don't start planning till you're at a safe place, you know, like 12 weeks or just after, but to be fair, it doesn't matter what stage of your pregnancy you're at, you can still lose your baby. So when do you get excited? That'd be like saying just never get excited till your baby arrives. So when we went for the scan, she said that the baby looked healthy, had a heartbeat, it was strong, you know, and that was at 6 weeks and 5 days, and she said that was a good heartbeat that she was picking up. Anyway, going back, the clot was not pregnancy tissue. So she did say on the Friday morning that it's possible that you may have lost that pregnancy, that clot that we've not managed to investigate, or you've possibly not lost the pregnancy yet, and because of your past with your last pregnancy and your uterus not finding it quite hard to contract, there's a possibility that the pregnancy hasn't got enough strength to get rid of it, or your body hasn't got enough strength to make the contractions to help the baby come past the cervix. So she did say to me that I never knew they did this, and it must be something new, but obviously when I first went in, they asked me if you pass the baby, we ask if we can take the baby to do tests to make sure it's not like a molar pregnancy or anything like that, which they did think that it could have been a molar pregnancy just because of the amount of clots and stuff. I know like most there's quite a few forms of molar pregnancy. So there's like a full molar pregnancy, then a part molar pregnancy is like where the baby gets so big and then it can't grow anymore, so it just deceases. And then there's one like what Chloe had, where the pregnancy is there but there's no baby, but it's like a cancer tissue, and obviously that's why they have to keep an eye on it. So in 2 weeks I have to do another pregnancy test to check that the pregnancy test is coming back negative, and if it's not and it's coming back positive, then I've got to go back in and have surgery. So I'm just hoping that we can get to 2 weeks and it just says negative, because I really don't want to go back in hospital. I don't want to do it on my own. I know if I have to, then I will have to, but so anyway, when she checked my pad on that Friday morning, she said she was happy with the bleeding. I hadn't had any more dizzy spells. I felt a lot better that morning, a little bit more energy, but I just felt so tired. I think I just tired myself out crying though. So she said I'm happy to discharge her, but obviously on the grounds that after 2 weeks, if the pregnancy test is positive, you have to come back in, and we've got to do a D&C and clean everything out just to make sure that there's nothing left, and the baby's not sat on the top of the cervix, because obviously they wouldn't have been able to, baby would have been like the size of a butterfly, which is quite big I think. So, but I suppose when they're curled up as well, they are still quite tiny. So we've just got to wait and see now what happens in the next 2 weeks. See whether the pregnancy test comes back negative, which I think it will. I think everything should be all right. But like I said before, we never get a break. We just never get a break. So I'm just not going to bank on it, because something will go wrong. If I say it'll all be fine, it won't be. So, but hopefully everything will be okay. At least I've managed to say a little bit. May not have done all of it without crying, but done most of it. I don't even know what to say though, because I'm just so gutted. I'm so gutted. I just don't know what to do. I feel so lost. I just feel so lost. So obviously the hospital have asked, like, if we wanted to try again, then we can. Try near enough straight away. Obviously when the bleeding stopped and everything, we wouldn't do it before then. But I just think mentally, I just don't know how I feel at the minute. If I'd want to try again or not. I know the kids have asked, the kids had said, will you try again? Not like, will you try again, mum, because we just want a baby. But it's just like, will you not have any more babies now, or will you just try again after everything's settled down? But me and Dave have spoke about it. Well, it kind of feels like a real weird thing to talk about when you've had a miscarriage, because I think it would be different, like, if you hadn't had a scan and known that there was a baby there, because you kind of feel like it's just nature doing its thing. But when you've seen a baby there with a heartbeat, it's almost like you feel like you're trying to replace something that's disappointed you, even though it's not. But that's just how you think, or I think, because, you know, that baby's never ever disappointed me in anything. I was so excited, like literally so excited. The only one time, like when we got pregnant with Aurora, obviously we did the pregnancy test live, so you guys could watch. And this time I tried to document everything as good as I could, or as well as I could. I'm not very good at this vlogging stuff, if I'm honest, and I think that's been one of the main reasons it's kind of put me off not wanting to vlog, because I don't know, I just look at everybody else's and I just think, God, theirs always look dead good. And I just, like, I'm always messing with the camera. I mean, obviously, if I was taking pictures, I know what I'm doing. I know how to set my camera and get the right lighting and stuff, and I know how to use lighting. But using this camera is just so hard. I just don't know how to use it. Like, I don't know. I think it's just having the time to sit down and learn to use it. But like I said, I was trying to do everything that I could and try and do weekly updates, and it feels like when I'm trying to do something right or document everything so I've got it as a memory, something just comes along and spoils it. Not, obviously it's not the baby's fault, you know, it's just the way life goes. Obviously that pregnancy wasn't a healthy pregnancy, and I said that all the way through from the beginning. I just don't feel right. If you go back and watch the vlogs, you'll see on most of the things, everything was just so weird. I did not feel pregnant, even though I'd seen a scan. And even after the scan, I kept saying to Dave, I just don't feel pregnant. And everyone kept saying, don't worry about it, you know, just, if you've got no symptoms and no sickness, then, you know, just take advantage of it, because you never know whether it's going to kick in or whether it's not. But I think you know yourself, don't you? And also, Max, like literally, that cat is crazy. But that cat is so bloody clever. He sat with me every single night. I mean, even from when I got pregnant. When I first got pregnant, I've still got it on my phone. And you know what? I'm going to put it up on our Instagram. Just so you can see it. I don't know whether well, it'll go onto Instagram, it'll go onto Facebook, because I don't think I'll remember to send it to Dave to just show you quickly on here. But if I do, I will ask him to put it in. But if not, we'll add it in another clip when we're vlogging through the week. But I will try and remember. When I first got pregnant, he literally tried pushing the laptop off my knee to get onto my stomach. But it was the way he did it, it was so weird. It was like he knew. Like when I've got pregnant before, he'd just come and sniff my belly, but this time it was like he was proper trying to protect my stomach. It was just so weird. And then every night after that, he used to sit beside me. And when I say to you, he used to sit on the couch. I think I mentioned this in one of the vlogs. He was literally sat on the couch and he'd just stare at me. He'd just stare like this, like he was staring right through you. So every night he used to come and sit beside me, and literally put his paw, like he'd sit here at the side of me, but he'd put his paw on me like this. It was almost like he was telling me to do something. And I kept saying to Dave, that cat's trying to tell me something. I don't know what he's trying to tell me or what he wants, but he's trying to tell me something. But then he'd just lie on my stomach for the rest of the night. But that cat was telling me there was something wrong. And he's so clever. Right, Max? Maxie! Come here, Max. Come on. Are you coming? No, he's sleeping now. He's actually laid down here in his bed. But yeah, so don't ever, if your cat is ever lay with you or sat with you, putting his paw on you, he's trying to tell you something. So listen to him. And they say, don't they, like if cats lick in a certain place of your body, it's like a sign that it could be something bad or like an illness or something. So, but yeah, anyway, I know it's probably not the best of vlogs or videos, but obviously I wanted to share this with everybody and just, I don't know, I think talking about it helps it a little bit more. I think that's why I find it easier not to cry, because I feel like I'm talking about it. It kind of makes it easier, like it's like there's somebody listening. It's like you're talking to a counsellor. You're my counsellor. But yeah, so the only thing I was really disgusted about, like I said, they didn't offer me any counselling or didn't want to speak to anybody, knowing that I'd literally been sitting in my bed crying like all day. Just didn't know what to do, lost. Couldn't really speak to Dave because my phone was broken till he brought me Alfie's phone. And then obviously Dave was at home, so he had to deal with what he did know on his own because we worked together. And then he had to ring his mum for support, you know, and his family, because they were the only people that he could get hold of. But yeah, so the last 2 days have just been so draining. So today's been an easier day, I must admit. I mean, if I would have tried doing this video yesterday, seriously, I don't think I would have been able to talk. You would have just heard a load of mumbling. I think today I find it a little bit easier to talk about, but I do like just have my moments where I'll just look into space and then just burst out crying. But I think that's just normal, innit? Because, you know, you just started planning everything for a new arrival and you know, a new baby, and I think sometimes you just feel a little bit embarrassed. Like when I was coming home, I just felt like I'd let the kids down and I'd let Dave down, even though they, you know, they said it's not your fault, Mum. And Dave said it's not, you know, it's not your fault, it's just one of them things that happens, but it's just how you emotionally feel inside and mentally, that I felt like that. But hopefully the future will be bright and something will just go right for us for once. So like I said, I'm not too sure whether we will ever try for another baby or whether we will. I mean, we have spoke about it and I think in time we probably will try again. I'm not too sure when. Obviously not to replace what we've lost, but just because we really wanted a baby, we really wanted that baby, but obviously it just weren't meant to be. So hopefully if we do get pregnant in the future, everything will go better next time. Things will be different, but obviously we don't know whether that'll happen. We don't know whether we would I know if we did try for a baby next time, we definitely would not be telling anyone until after 12 weeks. I mean, I know a lot of people, it's not just me, there's a lot of YouTubers out there that tell people pretty early anyway. There's only a couple of them that really wait till after 12 weeks. And I think once you've lost a baby, you kind of think, I won't be doing that again. I'm going to feel like a right idiot. But obviously we did it with Aurora, and Aurora was fine. But it's like I say, it's just nature doing its thing in it, I suppose. It just wasn't a healthy pregnancy, and you know, they say your body gets rid of what's not healthy for you. So, but it's just one of them things, isn't it? Now we just need to think positive and try and just help each other get through it. So anyway, that is the end of this video, because Dave will probably be going crazy because I've just like spoken. I did say I'll try and make it as quick as I can. I was literally just going to try and fly through everything, but then because your head's so messed up and so much happens, you'll be amazed how much happens in the space of one day, especially like when you're losing a baby, and the amount of doctors and nurses and paediatricians and other people that you have to see, and especially people that have had more kids will understand. I mean, some people can go through this just having one baby or two babies, but obviously it becomes more of a risk when you've had more kids, and you're more likely to like hemorrhage or bleed to death or stuff like that. And yeah, so but anyway, I know it's not the best of things to hear, but I just want to say a massive big thank you to everybody that left all of the absolutely amazing messages, because it has helped us so much. Just get through the last couple of days, and you know, they're still coming through. I just, you know, there's people that have contacted me that I've not spoke to for years and years, and it just feels so good. I just hope it can continue to just, you know, I wish YouTube was just a nicer platform for everybody to be on. I just think there's people out there that have got shit lives going, you know, you never know what somebody is going through mentally, emotionally, through the family, and you know, I just think just be nice to people, love other people. You know, if you don't like somebody, you don't have to like them, but don't make a point that you don't like them, because you don't need to. You know, there's a million people that I probably don't like, but I would never go out to personally make them know that I don't like them, because I've got no reason to. But yeah, come on, let's make YouTube a better place, and you know, everybody can be happy and everybody can have a really good life, and arguing and bickering and fighting and, you know, going backwards and forwards, just, you know, the amount of upset that you cause, and then you're friends again, and then you fall out again, and then, you know, is it all worth it at the end of it? If something happened, seriously happened, and you could never go back to that person and say sorry, you never ever forgive yourself, would you? You know, and I just think there is so much world and life out there. Go and live it, and just, you know, be nice to other people. So anyway, like I said, I'm gonna love you and leave you, and obviously today is Portia's birthday, so we're celebrating that. It's just gonna be probably Portia opening presents, because she's literally got a million. So anyway, I hope you guys are all having an amazing night. Again, thank you for all of your support through Facebook, Instagram, can't even think what the other one's called. Anyway, through all of them. And yeah, anyway, I love you all, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.